you ever been in a space where you feel like you're sacrificing literally everything just to keep up with your goals? Maybe you heavily resonate with Andy from The Devil Wears Prada, who sacrificed nearly everything for a job she assumed was going to make her happy in the end. Or Joe from Pixar's Soul, who remained unsatisfied with life until he proved he was a jazz musician. Or even Mark Zuckerberg's portrayal in The Social Network, who let his ambition cost him his friendships. The thing is, these aren't just compelling stories. These reflect real life struggles for a lot of people like you and me. Whether you're chasing corporate goals, building your own business, or simply trying to meet the high standards society has set out for you, it can be so easy to get caught up and identify with the endless cycle of striving. I know, and you're probably like,
Kayla, what do you mean? There's nothing wrong with ambition.
There's nothing wrong with it at all. That is, until you have to sacrifice your authenticity just to keep up with it. So what Andy, Mark, and Joe all experienced are a common ego trap that I like to call the achievement trap. And it's when your self-worth becomes unshakably linked to your accomplishments. Before I dive into how the achievement trap ties into our ego, stick with me because at the end of the video, I'm going to share a powerful trick that I've been using to help undo this cycle in myself. It's simple and it's something you can start doing today. So the achievement trap is where you get stuck in a cycle that's driven by your ego, where you only value yourself measured by your accomplishments. It's like an invisible contract that you sign where you promise yourself happiness and peace in exchange for success and not a moment before. In us everyday people, this might look like not allowing yourself to rest because you haven't reached that milestone or gotten enough work done that day, or beating yourself up because you're of a certain age and you haven't gotten married or had kids yet, or crashing out because you're overworking in an environment that cannot see your worth. We've all been there. But here's the kicker. Think about the last time you reached that last milestone, that thing to celebrate, that goal you set. How long did that initial rush last? Let's say you graduated college or high school. How long did that joy last after you walked across the stage? Exactly. You were probably wondering, okay, so where's my job at? The tricky thing about life is that each of our achievements only gives us that temporary feeling of fulfillment. And if your ego sets you up in a way where you only feel like yourself if you're achieving, that's the fastest way to chronic dissatisfaction, burnout, and even anxiety and depression. Like, remember in The Devil Wears Prada where Andy starts to question if Miranda's lifestyle is worth it?
You want this life? Those choices are necessary.
I mean, what if I don't want to live the way you live?
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this.
Or when Joe finally performs with Dorothea Williams, but then after he reached that goal, he's like, okay, what now?
You don't get many like tonight.
Yeah. So, what happens next?
We come back tomorrow night and do it all again.
Or when Mark Zuckerberg was left alone after straight up betraying his closest friend, all in the name of success.
Were you aware that you were signing your own death certificate?
No. I was your only friend. Yet one friend.
All of those moments, as cinematic as they are a prime example of things that can happen when your ego takes over. And that's why we are going to nip it in the bud. Because in real life, this can mean putting off and self-sabotaging friendships, relationships, ignoring your own self-care, and even losing sight of who you really are, your authenticity. And like I always say, you can't change your life that way. And on this channel, that's what I like to talk about. I like to talk about personal growth and self-development and concepts that can bring us actual fulfillment. And hopefully in a way that isn't so dry. You know, I'm still learning. So we're not just chasing our tails, trying to figure out what's actually going to make us happy. And a big part of that is getting your ego in check. Your ego loves to tie your self-worth to external achievements. Loves it. It gives it purpose, identity. It's literally that voice in your head that says, you're only as good as your last success. And over time, it can feel like you're living somebody else's life, driven by expectations that most of the time are not even your own. So how can we break free from this trap? If you're on TikTok, you might have seen a trend called quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting.
Effectively quiet quitting.
It's been framed as a radical yet simple way to take a big step back from hustle culture that runs rampant, especially here in the US. It's a trend mostly used in relation to corporate America, where you finally put yourself first. It's about setting boundaries and prioritizing what you feel actually matters and choosing your own inner peace over constant achievement. And from what I've seen, it sounds like mostly just doing your job description without going above and beyond, especially if you feel undervalued. And because of that, this trend has triggered so many people who probably have been drinking a little too much of that corporate Kool-Aid, if you know what I mean. I'm kidding. But for people who are truly interested in the fundamentals of it, it's really just about redefining what success means to you, along with, learning to value ourselves as a whole rather than just what we do. And because of that, I think quiet quitting everything might hold the answers to solving the overactive ego problem. So now that we've covered what the achievement trap is and how it ties into the ego, let's get into the good stuff. Remember that tip I mentioned earlier? I'm still going to share it, so stick with me. So let's get into some of the methods people suggest when it comes to quiet quitting. Okay. Establish clear work-life boundaries. Decide when your workday ends and stick to it. This isn't about doing the bare minimum. It's about reclaiming your time and energy. Reasonable, and definitely could be applied to more than one area of your life. Another one, focus on what matters. Prioritize the tasks that truly align with your values and goals. Let go of the rest. It's okay to say no. I think that's another one that could be applied to multiple areas of your life. Disconnect and reconnect. When you're off the clock, really disconnect. Turn off notifications and invest time in activities that will bring you joy and fulfillment. I like that one. That sounds healthy to me. Celebrate small wins. Celebrate the little things that bring you happiness rather than just the big accomplishments. Remember, your worth isn't tied to your productivity. Now, I might be crazy, but these just sound like finding healthy balance in life, if you ask me. Am I tripping? So maybe. Quiet quitting can be the answer to finding peace in more than just our careers. Like, do your relationships or friendships always seem to be out of balance? Can't get them to go in the direction you want them to go in? Quiet quit. Your health and fitness goals always seem too elusive. You've tried everything almost to the point of it being too much? Quiet quit. Money isn't moneying like you want it to? Quiet quit. And let's be clear, I mean in the way I explained earlier, not in the way Andy did in The Devil Wears Prada, where she just up and got out of the car. Quiet quitting isn't really about giving up or quitting at all. It's more about living authentically and living a life that is true to you, one that feels good on the inside and doesn't just look shiny and pretty on the outside. And there's usually always a payoff to that. Even in The Devil Wears Prada, when Andy quits her job, she was always afraid of leaving because she thought her career would be ruined. Just for her to find out, after applying to a job that's more authentic to her, she gets a recommendation from the one and only Miranda Priestley. Here's that tip I promised you. This one's been helpful in me personally finding more balance and peace in my life whenever I find myself stuck in this ego trap. I learned this when I was doing my research on the Movies with a Message episode I did for Pixar's Soul. But whenever I feel frustrated or stuck with this ego trap specifically, I try to take a step back and ask myself, what am I trying to prove? It's a small change, but it makes a big difference. And it's made a big difference in how I approach my goals without letting that ego drive take over, because your ego is usually trying to prove something about yourself and doing it through those accomplishments. So if you ever find yourself in that place, try asking yourself that and watch how it shifts your mind afterwards. Okay, now the challenge. I challenge you to think of a time in your life right now or in the past where you've been stuck in the achievement trap, and how you might quiet quit if one day it felt necessary to do so. Quieting your ego is not easy, but it's possible. And the movie Eat, Pray, Love kind of gives us the blueprint on how to do it. You should check it out next, or check out the other types of ego traps, whichever floats your boat. And remember, you are enough just as you are. Okay, take care. As always, I'm sending love and healing your way. Bye.